The drunk boss went home and found the unknown side of the boss, completely refreshing my perception of her. This is the case. This afternoon, the company won a huge order, the boss was in a good mood, and all employees of the company dinner. In fact, my company is not large, and all employees have more than a dozen people, but the atmosphere of dinner is very good. Due to being happy, everyone was drunk soon. Chu Yang, you worked hard and sent Su Ting home. The boss Lu Jian looked at me drunk. I still need to deal with something. I found out that all my colleagues had left, and only the boss Lu Jian, Secretary Lu Jian, the boss Su Ting and me. At this moment, Su Ting was lying on the table and sleeping. As the words fell, Lu Jian smiled and helped Lu Jian to leave. Then I knew that Lu Jian was not going to deal with work at all. But I just can't figure it out. In terms of looks, Lu Jian is not as good as Su Ting, and even Su Ting is more sexy and charming than Lu Jian. Maybe Su Ting just doesn't meet Lu Jian's taste? But if you think about it carefully, Lu Jian is really forgetful. It is understood that the original Lu Jian was so poor that he would have today, if it wasn't for Su Ting's help. I really responded to that sentence, if you have money, it will deteriorate. But is there any way? This is the reality. The boss is going home. After recovering my thoughts, I came to Su Ting and tried to wake him up. Helplessly, no matter how I shouted, she did not respond. She seemed to be drunk. What to do? In the end, I had to help her to a taxi on the roadside. 10 minutes later, she finally rushed to Su Ting's house downstairs, but she didn't want to wake up at all. In desperation, I could only pick her up again and walk towards the unit door. Fortunately, there is an elevator in the community where Su Ting's family is, otherwise, I will definitely exhaust me. With the sound of ding, the elevator stopped on the 15 floors, and my task was about to be completed. At this moment, Su Ting reacted, and she seemed to vomit. Boss, you insist. I hurriedly picked up Su Ting and rushed outside the elevator door. Su Ting drew a trick, and then I sent her home. But without waiting for me to close, Su Ting really vomited. I wipe it. I scolded and pushed her away subconsciously, but soon felt wrong, but it was too late. Su Ting fell heavily on the ground, and vomit mixed with alcohol was covered with her whole body. Fortunately, my body is clean. Boss, are you okay? I hurried down and looked at it carefully. After all, Su Ting is my boss. If she happened, I couldn't afford it. I even blamed myself in my heart, and shouldn't push her away just now. It hurts. Su Ting grinned his back, but quickly fell asleep again. Fortunately, it's okay. I was secretly happy in my heart, and then resisted the uncomfortable and moved Su Ting to the sofa. The task is completed. Thinking of this, I was ready to go, but when I remembered Su Ting's encounter, my heart was a little compassionate. Normally, Lu Jian would definitely not come back tonight. If I left directly, Su Ting would definitely sleep until dawn. Aside from the uncomfortable vomit, in the current weather, if you sleep until dawn, Su Ting will catch a cold. Thinking of this, I turned back to Su Ting and helped her handle vomit. But suddenly, I felt that she was so beautiful. For a while, I was dry and swallowed. After a long time, I finally calmed down and was ready to leave here. Husband. At this moment, Su Ting grabbed my hand sharply. I didn't notice it, but she was pulled back by her. Immediately after, the sweetness came from my mouth. What to do? My thoughts were chaotic, but I was still struggling to prevent Su Ting never succeed. Of course, it was not that she was not beautiful enough, but in my opinion, most of the Su Ting at this moment was drunk, and I used me as Lu Jian. If you do ridiculous things while people are in danger, it is difficult to end. What I didn't expect was that Su Ting, who seemed to be weak, was even greater than me. Soon I occupied the wind, and no matter how I struggled, I had no effect. This is really embarrassing. In the end, after a long time, I gave up struggle. At the same time, Su Ting's hand began to slide. I blew secretly. If I continue, there will definitely be a big deal. Don't. I hurriedly stopped Su Ting, and I couldn't do some things. Unfortunately, my resistance has no effect. A few minutes later, my defense was broken by Su Ting again. She really understands men. In the end, I forgot to resist, even looking forward to. In fact, since I came to the company, she felt that she was beautiful. It can be said that until today, Su Ting is the most beautiful among women. I vowed secretly in my heart that she would find a woman like Su Ting as a wife. I didn't expect my dream to realize it today. But I was holding Su Ting, and my mood was extremely complicated. Lu Jian's bastard, if he knows, will definitely kill me. More importantly, would Su Ting hate me after waking up? I have to leave quickly. Thinking of this, I hurriedly pushed Su Ting away and was ready to escape here. But at this moment, Su Ting even moved. She got in front of me and held me directly in her arms. What to do? I was anxious, and Duda's sweat beads fell down. After so long, Su Ting's wine has passed. Will Lu Jian come back suddenly? Damn. Various factors show that I must leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, if you are arrested, even if you are not cut to death by Lu Jian, you may have to sit through. In that case, my life is ruined. No, you must not let this happen. I followed Su Ting closely and was ready to escape at any time. Finally, after half an hour, Su Ting's breathing became proportioned. If it is right, at this moment, Su Ting has entered deep sleep. That's now. I gently pushed Su Ting. Get up and go to escape, dear. Where are you going? At this moment, Su Ting's voice sounded. And his hand fell towards my waist. It's broken, I can't run this time. I was stunned on the spot and didn't dare to move. Stick, go to the bathroom. I broke to Su Ting tremblingly, and then got up and left. Time is urgent, and you can't leave if you don't leave. Etc. When I thought it was successful, Su Ting blocked it again. I'm going too. Said, Su Ting sat up. At this moment, my whole body trembled, and I didn't dare to turn back. Chu Yang quickly, Su Ting came over, he pointed at me in shock. Why are you? What's the situation? My heart was suddenly tight. At this moment, I prayed that he didn't remember situation. When Su Ting saw me, he didn't answer, and his tone was cold. Why are you here? I knew that Su Ting was angry at this moment. Fortunately, there was no knife in his heart. Otherwise, he would definitely split me alive. I was drunk, and the boss asked me to send you back. I answered carefully, then lowered my head and didn't dare to look directly at her eyes. Soon innocence is very important for women, and I understand more that Su Ting is not a casual woman. You mean that Lu Jing didn't come back at all? Su Ting stared at me, his face was unbelievable. I nodded and continued, the boss is a bit wrong, I'll go first. After throwing this sentence, I turned around and walked towards the door. You must leave as soon as possible, otherwise, when he reacts, things will be difficult to do. Chu Yang, Su Ting stared at me fiercely, his face was extremely ugly. In other words, the person who just talked with me was right? I'm fucking. Su Ting's response was too fast. But if you think about it, I have been forced from beginning to end. Even if he wants to hold accountable, he can't blame me. Thinking of this, my heart was a little easier. If he didn't make sense, he buckled the hat and asked me. I was flushed with a big face, and I couldn't say a word. This matter is a bit difficult to do. I see ain't say that what he just forced me to force me, right? Does this fuck say that someone will believe it? What are you? Su Ting said fiercely, I didn't expect it, looking at you, it turned out to be such a person. No, I want to call the police. Then he picked up the phone and prepared to call the police. Can't call the police. Thinking of this, I rushed over, seized the phone in his hand, and begged, the boss, you are drunk just now, wrong. I think of me as a boss, I see you, it's so beautiful, I can't help it, just, please, don't call the police, otherwise I will destroy it. There are still elderly parents in the family, if they were caught, it would be destroyed in the second half of my life. But Su Ting's face was still cold. I'm really not as good as pigs and dogs. The boss, please give me a chance to re-people. I slapped hard, repented piously, my face in tears. The best way to do this is to get Su Ting's understanding. Hee. Su Ting put down the phone and sneered, now knowing wrong? Why did you go? But you can let you go, you must promise me something. His face was no longer cold. I know that things have slowed down. I promise. As I fell, I nodded, promise not to say one, it's 100, I promise. For a while, I felt like I was destroyed. But there is no way. If Su Ting is upset and calls the police directly, my second half of life will be destroyed. Remember what you said today. Su Ting smiled and pointed at the door and said, let's go. What happened? I looked at Su Ting aggressively. Lady, you haven't said what's going on yet? To be honest, I really can't figure it out. Why did Su Ting leave me so easily? After all, most girls encounter this kind of thing to find death. You can't go? Su Ting's tone was cold again. If you don't leave, I want to change his mind. This fucking woman turned her face, really faster than turning the book. When I heard this, I had no time to think about it, and immediately took the door out. After returning home, I went around and couldn't fall asleep. In the early morning, I rushed to work with dark circles. Lu Jian came very early, but didn't change his clothes. I knew he didn't go home last night. At 10 o'clock, Su Ting finally came. When he passed by me, he glanced at me. I could feel that she was not malicious to me. And Lu Jian was as usual as Su Ting, but I knew that everyone didn't say anything, but they were all ghosts. After a few days, there was no strangeness, and Su Ting did not propose the conditions. It was strange that even I thought something had passed. But it turns out that I am too naive. On this day, Lu Jian decided to discuss cooperation projects in a business trip, and he also told us to work well when he was leaving. Coincidentally, Lu Jian was uncomfortable and just asked for a week of sick leave. Sure enough, it is right, and Lu Jian will definitely be with Lu Qian next. As for whether it is a business trip, it is unknown. Near the end of get off work, I leaned on the chair to keep my eyes closed. Chu Yang came to my house off work. At this moment, Su Ting suddenly appeared and said softly to me, "What does he mean?" Lu Jian didn't do anything. What did he want to do? Su Ting liked me? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. He is so beautiful, and he has money, how could he look at me? Yes, it must be that condition. Soon, Su Ting left the company, and the colleagues returned home after Su Ting left. Does Su Ting let me promise him? I was sitting on the workshop and thought carefully. Half an hour passed, but I had no clue at all. In desperation, I rushed to Su Ting's house. "You're here." After opening the door, Su Ting said enthusiastically, "Hurry up and eat." What happened? Did he let me come over just to eat? I looked at Su Ting aggressively. At this moment, Su Ting is very cool, slender thighs, white and indifferent. For a while, I looked at it, and even the qi and blood in my body began to roll. "What are you doing? Come in." Su Ting smiled, and turned into the kitchen after saying. I nodded, went to wash my hands, and then returned to the table and sat down. But through the glass door, Su Ting's graceful figure kept shaking in the kitchen. For a while, I couldn't help thinking of it. What do you miss? Soon, Su Ting came out with the food, eat. Her face was full of gentle smiles. When the words, Su Ting returned to the kitchen again. I know that the kitchen still has food, so I hurriedly got up and followed Su Ting into the kitchen. Just wait. Su Ting looked back with a smile and walked over with the vegetables. How are you so embarrassed? Give me it. I hurriedly reached out to pick up the plate in Su Ting's hand. In the next second, my body looks like an electric shock, yes. While taking the plate, my hand touched Su Ting's hand, the feeling of electric shock. Did I fall in love with Su Ting? To avoid embarrassment, I sat back to the table, but my thoughts were full of thoughts. Taste this. Su Ting smiled and pinched me a piece of meat. I'm not delicious for me to cook, you make it together. Then I followed Su Ting. During this period, she kept giving me vegetables. I had a feeling, and she seemed to like me too. But this kind of statement can't stand at all. After all, I'm just a poor boy. Su Ting is so beautiful. How can I look at me? The boss asked him to come over, wouldn't it be just to eat? After thinking about it, hesitated again and again, I asked it. Hee hee. Su Ting smiled jokingly, otherwise? What do you think I let you come over? As she said, slowly sliding down from my face, until suddenly, my face was hot, and she lowered her head. After packing the dining table, I followed Su Ting to the living room, and she sat down beside me. She shouldn't think. No. Although I like her very much, Su Ting is a husband with husband anyway. The boss, it's not too early, I should go back. I kept my mind, try to suppress the blood of boiling, so as not to let myself do anything over the track. After speaking, I stood up to say goodbye to Su Ting. After all, the time is not early. The lonely men and widows are in the same room. The last time Su Ting was drunk was a good example. I didn't want to happen again. Let's stay tonight. Su Ting pulled my arm and looked at me reluctantly. Suddenly, the soft and comfortable feeling poured into my heart. Old boss, you don't do this. I trembled, my teeth trembled, and my words were not good. To be honest, as an adult, of course, I know Su Ting's meaning, but it is important that before you understand her intention, you must never leave a handle. Last time, until now I was still in my heart. Don't pretend. Su Ting looked at me jokingly, although you say this on your mouth, your body has already betrayed you. Yeah, being found by such a beautiful woman. If there is no response from the body, it is mostly a problem. Old. I hurriedly argued that it had not been exported yet, and Su Ting's mouth had been posted. Seeing this scene, I closed my eyes involuntarily, and then I went sweetly. Although I was stubborn, she was succeeded by her. If you think about it, Lu Jian often has a ghost with Lu Jian in the guise of a business trip, and Su Ting can only keep the empty room alone. I know that at her age, like a tiger, she couldn't bear it at all. Maybe she longed for someone to love. Ting Ting, do my woman. After the incident, I held Su Ting in my arms and said sincerely, although I have no money, I can guarantee that I love you more than Lu Jian. Since I came to the company, I often peek at Su Ting. In other words, she is really beautiful. In my heart, Su Ting is simply a goddess. Really? Su Ting looked at me suspiciously, blinking with God's eyes.